Hey all, Tony Bing here, hello and welcome back to another Tier 4 Essentials video for Marvel Strike Force. Now, the team that we will look at today is the one that won the recent poll I put up as the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, it's 6 characters in total, so that includes Drax, Kimura, Groot, Mantis, Racoon and also Starboard. Now, I will mention before we go in and break down the essential Tier 4 upgrades that a few of these characters actually form one of the best meta teams in the game. It's got various different names. I believe it can be called the Tech Nerva. I've heard it called that. We call it the Meta Guard team ourselves, but when I get to the characters I'll let you know that they form part of that exclusive team, and that really weighs the decision to invest in them a lot more than the other characters. So we'll start off anyway with Drax. Drax then is a character that since the game has came out, he's went from being useless to being part of the meta, to being useless to being part of the meta, and I would say he's almost back to, unfortunately, being pretty useless again. Now, if we look at what he offers, you have his basic, which is Knife Slash. The only difference on this from 6 to 7 is 30% damage, so you're not going to want to upgrade that one at all. On his special, the difference is an additional 1 counter you get when you taunt up. Because he's so slow, it's just simply not worthwhile. So this is another one. You keep it level 6. You then have the ultimate. You do an additional 30% damage on a chain, which is nice because you can chain a fair amount of targets and you increase the drain on it. So on paper it does look nice, but because Drax is so slow and this starts with 3 charges and it takes 6 to charge, in a lot of instances you won't even get to use this before the match is over. So once again, this is another one you just want to keep at level 6. And then finally you have the passive, which is called Destroyer. With this one here you can gain an additional 5% drain. It's simply not worthwhile at all. So for Drax we don't have any tier 4 abilities that we would actually upgrade there. So next character we'll have a look at will be Kimura. Kimura is a character that when the game first came out, she was one of the strongest characters in the game, but at the moment, personally I feel that I really struggle to fit her into any team that I actually use, and that does have a weighting when it comes to actually upgrading any of her skills. Now, the first one we look at anyway is the basic, which is Assassin Strike. So with this one, if you fully max it out, you get an additional 10% chance for bonus attack. Bonus attack is pretty amazing, but you're already getting 40% at level 6 and it's only 50% at level 7, so I simply don't feel that this is worthwhile upgrading. We then have the special. This one here you can gain an additional 40% damage on the primary attack and then it's 20% damage on the chain. Not worthwhile upgrading in my opinion. We have the ultimate, which is a really nice skill. The difference is 50% damage, which is pretty nice on it, but the fact that it's single target, for that reason I would say keep this one at level 6 as well. And then finally you have the passive, which is Deadly Methods. The difference between level 4 and 5 and this one is an additional 5% crit chance on Kimura. Simply not worthwhile. So that's the first 2 characters we don't have any upgrades on at all. The next character we look at, and this is when we get into a character that's included in this exceptionally powerful meta team, the character is Groot. Groot then is a character that if he wasn't part of one of the strongest meta teams in the game, this team includes likes of Vision, Thanos, Rocket, Star-Lord and also Minerva. There's a few variations on it, but that particular team is incredibly strong. If he wasn't part of this, then I would say that he doesn't actually have any tier 4 upgrades, but being part of this team you want to put a bit more value into him and a bit more of your actual resources. For that reason I would say 2 out of the 4 you want to upgrade. Now if we run through them, the first one is the basic, which is Crush and Blow. The difference is 40% damage. He hits like an absolute truck, but because he is so slow and it's only single target, just keep this one at level 6. We then have Overgrowth, which is his special. The difference from level 6 to 7 is that he gains an additional 1 death proof on himself. Now this is one that I would say is worthwhile upgrading. It'll be low on your priority list, and it is really worthwhile upgrading due to the fact that he's part of this team that I've mentioned already, and it can make him really pretty tricky to take down. So this is the first one you want to max out. You then have his healing skill, which is Ultimate Life Spores. The only difference from 6 to 7 is 2200 health, so do not upgrade this under any circumstances. And then finally you have the passive, which is I Am Groot. So with this one here, he gets an additional 5% chance to revive, so it bumps it up to 20%, which is pretty nice. But also with this, when he's attacked, which can happen often due to the interaction between Rocket and Groot, where you can get a taunt on Groot, then he actually has a 100% chance to slow attackers for 2 turns. Now his focus is a little bit on the lower side, and that does appear to affect this, but again, if you're investing into this exceptionally strong meta team, I would say it's worthwhile upgrading this one as well. So that would be the special and the passive that you want to max out. Now the next character we have is Mantis. Mantis then is very similar to both Kimura and Drax in that they are characters that were useful at one point in time, but now I actually struggle to fit her into any kind of team I'm using at all. I normally use her just in a ragtag team in war towards the end of it when I need to throw in just random characters. But if you look at her abilities anyway, the first one is the basic, which is called Sleep. The difference from 6 to 7 is 40% damage, but her base damage is so low, it's a primary target attack, so you definitely don't want to upgrade this one. You then have her special, which is called Empathy. With this one, if you max it out, you gain an additional 250 health, which is nothing, and you get a 100% chance for regen for adjacent allies as opposed to a 75% chance, so this isn't worthwhile upgrading either. And then you have the ultimate called Soothe. You get an additional 500 health, and rather than transferring and clearing 1 to 2 negative effects, you'll transfer 2. Again, it's simply not worthwhile upgrading this. Potentially if Minerva hadn't come out and we were still using Mantis a lot in raids, then it may be a different story, but Minerva's here and that definitely affects Mantis, unfortunately. Now the final skill you have, or not even a skill here, it's the passive. This is called Will to Power. So the difference in this one is on spawn you either have a 100% chance for charged when it's maxed out, or at level 4 you have a 50% chance for charged. Now the charge gives you a guaranteed stun at the start of a match, and it's actually really pretty useful with her attack speed. Characters that you can shut down turn 1 that can really turn a match can be the likes of Minerva, Punisher. You also have Thanos, Hulk, Luke Cage and Kingpin, so you can stun all them, and they are characters that in turn 1 can completely turn it against you. So for that reason, if you find that if you are using Mantis in any team, I'm not quite sure why you would, but if you do want to use it in a team, then you will want to max out the passive because it can be very useful. So that's just the one upgrade for Mantis here anyway. The next character we'll have a look at will be Rocket Racoon. When it comes to Rocket and his upgrades, I put a lot of value into these for 2 reasons. One, he's part of this exceptionally powerful meta team that people are using in war and also raids, and 2, that he's currently got the highest damage rating in the game, which makes any of his damage upgrades all that more valuable. Now if we check them out, the first one we have is a basic. The difference on this one, it's called Rocket Rifle anyway, but the difference on this is 20% damage to the primary target, which isn't that great. An additional 5% crit chance on this, however it does 40% additional damage to adjacent targets, and this alongside his high base damage is one that I would say would just scrape in, and if you're using them in that team I've mentioned various times now, you would want to max this one out. We then have the special, which is called Pretty Good Plan. With this one you can gain an additional 30% damage, and the chance for an assist from a random ally jumps from 50% up to 70%. Again, due to the factors I've already covered, I would say you want to max this one out as well. And then finally you have the ultimate, which is absolutely amazing. This is called Maximum Damage. So with this, if you attack without Groot, you can gain 30% damage. If you attack and Groot as an ally, you actually gain a whopping 40% damage there when you go from level 6 to 7. So this is another upgrade, so it's 3 out of 3 so far. When we get to the passive, this is really pretty underwhelming. The only difference from level 4 to 5 is that on turn you have a 40% chance to apply 2 positive random effects to random allies as opposed to just 1 to 2. So for that reason just keep that at level 4. So that is the basic, special and the ultimate you want to upgrade on Rocket. The final character we'll have a look at will be Starboard. Starboard then is another character that we use in this meta team that we've mentioned already, so this does have an impact on his upgrades. Now the first one we look at is Element Gun. The difference on this one is 50% damage that applies to the primary target in both the chain. Now the chain only goes from potentially 2 to 3 targets. If it was a guaranteed 3 I would say upgrade it, but because it potentially sometimes only goes to 2, I would say with this one here you just want to actually keep it at level 6. We then have Clever Distraction, which is a special, so with this you have a 50% chance for an additional blind, which means you could blind up to 3 targets, but because it's only that 50% chance to actually proc, and then it's going to go to a random target that may not necessarily be that useful, I would say this is one you want to keep at level 6 as well. We then have Elemental Blast. This particular one, the difference from level 6 to 7 is 70% damage. When you run the team that has Rocket and Starlord, you can normally take out some characters at the start very quickly that really help the match. I find that the additional 70% damage on this at the start of a match can really help out, so this is one that I would recommend actually upgrading. And then finally we have Improvisation, which is a passive. Now the difference with this one is that on turn you have a 50% chance to generate 1 to 2 ability energy for an adjacent ally as opposed to just 1. This is a difficult one because in some instances it can be exceptionally useful, but you've only got that 50% chance for it to actually happen. However, because it is adjacent allies, it removes the RNG aspect in the respect of who the energy is going to go to depending on his placement. So this is one that I would say is later down on the list for sure, but it's one that you would want to upgrade there. So for Starlord it would be the ultimate, and also the passive that you would upgrade. Now what I'll do, I'll actually list all of the upgrades on screen, and then within the comments of this video I'll pin a post where I've got the rough order of upgrades as well. But let's quickly check out all the ones you want to upgrade. Out of the 6 Guardians of the Galaxy characters we have, then the first 2 there was no upgrades that you would actually want to put on them, so that would be for Drax and Kimura. You then have Groot, as he's part of this special meta team at the moment. You're looking to upgrade the special and the ultimate. With Mantis, if you are looking to use her, then I would recommend the passive because that can be very useful as mentioned. We then have Rocket. Again, as he's part of this meta team, I would recommend upgrading the basic, special and the ultimate. And for Starlord, once more part of that meta team, I would say you want to upgrade the ultimate and the passive. So that's the essential upgrades for the Guardians of the Galaxy team. In close second place on the poll I put in regards to which team you actually want me to cover were the Wakandans. So I'll look to do a video for them next, and as always, thanks for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you all again soon.